The backstage button thingy.
Hi, Auntie Azlan.
Oh, this is the backstage, is it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. The speaker chat. Ah, yes. All right. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye. Hello.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hi, we have Encik Azlan here as well as Encik Farid.
Mm.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session, ASNB Redefining the Future of Asset Management, brought to you by Jewel Digital Ventures and 1337 Ventures in partnership with ASNB. I'm Wayan and I'll be your host for today. Today's session is the very first webinar of our Hackatech 2022 pre-hackathon workshop series, and I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. Our speaker for the day is Encik Muhammad Azlan Masood, who is the Head of Customer and Channel Management at ASNB. Encik Azlan started his career in 2002, and in the course of his 20-year career, he has held various positions in both technical and management at local and multinational corporations, covering industries such as finance, technology, and government services. He joined ASNB in January of 2013, and in January 2019, he was appointed as the head of Business Solutions Department before assuming his current position as the head of Customer and Channel Management in April 2022. Today's session will be moderated by Encik Farid Rizwan, who is an advisor at Jewel Digital Ventures. Encik Farid is currently a global equity strategist and fund manager for Pemodalan Nasional Berhad, PNB. He has more than 10 years of investment-related work experience, encompassing fund management, equity research, and quantitative research. Encik Farid is also the advisor to Jewel Digital Ventures, an investment vehicle set up by PNB to spearhead its digital business strategy. He has been a CFA charter holder since 2016 and currently sits on the board of directors of the CFA Society Malaysia as vice president. In this session, you'll be learning more about ASNB's products and services and how ASNB is moving towards redefining the future of asset management in Malaysia. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to input your questions in the Q&A box located at the right-hand side of your screen, and we will be addressing some of them at the end of the session. So without further ado, let us welcome Encik Azlan as well as Encik Farid on stage.
Hi, thank you, Wei En. Am I clear? I'm all good. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Encik Farid.
All right, that's great. That's great. That's the usual way we greet each other during these Zoom seminars. It's always not with hello, but with hello, hello, so that you can hear or not. Anyway, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I would like to say a great hello and welcome to today's seminar for all the participants here today. As Wayne said, I am Farid Rizwan. I'm also, the advisor here at JDV, and our guest today is Encik Azlan Masood. And Encik Azlan is the head of customer and channel management here at ASNB. So welcome to the show, Encik Azlan. Yeah.
Very formal are you this morning, Farid?
Oh yes, yes.
Farid
It's
Q.
it's that's why,
So
because
nervous.
in the office, so
Alah.
having that. Yeah.
All
Uh,
right.
Yeah, so you are the head of customer and channel management at SMB. Yeah, I'm sure there's some of us who are a bit unfamiliar with that particular role. So maybe you can just introduce a little bit about what does that role entail.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Farid Q. I'm surprised
Thank you.
somebody calls you by the full name.
Exactly.
Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. So basically, what my department covers is pretty much almost the entire um, customer journey for all of ASNB's unit holders. So if you've ever been to any of my branches, there's 32 located nationwide. Those are some of my colleagues. If you've ever tried to call ASMB's call center, the customer service unit is also under myself. Then I've got the back office operations in terms of the unit trust of operations. So basically, um, pretty much the entire process chain from the front all the way to the back, inclusive of the various back office operations such as dividend operations and your when you get your income statements and all that stuff is basically under the customer and channel management department.
All right, thank you. Maybe just to kind of kick it off, because this is in a way kind of the first workshop for our participants here today. Maybe could you just give us a little insight into ASMB's products? Yeah, maybe just a quick introduction to the products offered currently.
All right. So I think for everyone, I think the organizers sent a deck to all of the participants for not just today, but the entire virtual FinTech hackathon that's going to take for the next few weeks, I think. So basically, Amanasam National Berhad is the unit trust management company, 100% subsidiary of Pemodalan Nasional Berhad, PNB, obviously. Um, I mentioned earlier we have 32 branches nationwide. We'll hopefully grow by one more next year or the year after that once the PNB 118 is ready. We look forward to open ASMB's first showcase branch, where we hope maybe some of the ideas and proposals that we have from the team today could be showcased in the new branch in 118, Menara 118, in the next 1 or 2 years. Um, Basically, ASNB has been around probably longer than our moderator this morning, Farid Q, has been alive, and maybe even older than some of the 120 odd people who are in this session today. We've been around since the early 80s. Um, Almost 50% of Malaysians are ASMB's unit account holders, which about 14 million. And as at, you know, this year we've come close to that 300 billion AUM or units under circulation as far as the unit trust product is concerned. So um, I think everyone knows, unit trust funds in Malaysia, you've heard about ASB, the most popular one. You've heard about the other companies such as public mutuals and all that stuff. So basically, ASNB unit trust funds are actually split into two. You've got the fixed price funds, which is like Amanah Saham Bumi Putra, ASB2, ASB3, Amanah Saham Malaysia, which are funds that are open to all Malaysians, regardless of race and religion. And then we've also got a set of your typical unit trust products, which is the variable price products. Some of them managed by Farid Q himself. Some of them are based locally, some of them are fully international funds, such as Equity Global and Imbang Global. So basically, the main differentiating between the two types of unit trust funds are basically one is fixed price. Whether the market fluctuates up or down, you can redeem your units with the same NAV or net asset value, which is RM1. And then you've got the variable price funds, which is what the industry offers, which the price fluctuates and then the dividends may or may not be distributed depending on the performance of the funds. Right? Is that okay? Cik Farid?
Yeah, yes, I think that's very very clear. Just a reminder to the audience that you can send in your questions whenever and whenever you like to, and then we will just ask those questions to Inche as well. But with that, being the customer and channel management head, I'm sure you have a lot of insight into how the products are distributed, right? So, do you mind just telling us a little bit about the main channels of how these products are being sold and bought at this point in time?
All right. So basically, ASNB is one of the more unique unit trust funds management company, in the sense that in the first place we are both available for transaction via physical channels, 32 ASNB branches, and also almost 3,000 agent banks who are also our distributors. So that means you can walk into any of my branches. You can walk into a Maybank branch, RHB, CIMB, and just go and open an account with ASB. You can apply loans through them. So that's one channel. That's the physical channel. That is what we call the matured channel. So
Hmm.
the digital channels involve also again, there's availability of transacting via my ASNB.
I think we have maybe lost Inche Azlan on the line. So, I just see my entire face on the screen right now. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
my
think maybe let's just give Encik Azlan a couple of seconds to come back in. I think a bit of
sure, sure,
connectivity issues there.
sure. No worries. This is part of
Okay,
the
Encik Azlan.
challenges.
Okay. Not sure what happened. Sorry
Yes.
about that, ladies and gentlemen. Um, okay, where was I?
You were talking
Uh,
about
my
physical and
SMB.
then, yes, my
Yeah.
SMB.
So
That's right.
so the digital channels not only involve ASNB's own my ASNB, but we are also available on the bank's digital platforms. Some of it real time, like via Maybank to you, RHB now, and also it is also obviously available via our other key agents such as CIMB Clicks and also Hong Leong, if I'm not mistaken. So, as a unit holder of ASNB, you are customer agnostic. You can go to any of our agents, you can go to any of our branches, you can go to any of the digital platforms, may it be My ASNB or Maybank to you or RHB now, and you can transact pretty much buying and selling of the unit trust, especially redemption. And for example, on my ASNB recently, I think late last year, PNB and ASNB launched the eKYC, where a green customer, a green customer, totally new customer could basically sign up for and open an account with ASNB digitally, fully digital, and then you can proceed with your transactions and managing your portfolios, not just for your own, but also for your minors, your children that you are the guardian of.
Mm. I see. So I think you've introduced it. I think really nicely. There's physical, as well as there's digital channels. And if we can tie it up to a little bit with what you are, or at least what you introduced in the earlier part of your talk, where you talked about the different types of products, fixed versus variable price funds. Just wondering, in terms of distribution, is there any differences do you see in terms of how the variable price products are being sold versus the fixed price fund, or do you think they are more or less the same? Same.
Um, yeah, I think the variable price funds is obviously a lot more complicated, a lot more complex. It requires advisory, and advisory is at this moment in time, as far as Malaysia is concerned, is still very based on the human to human interaction consultancy. You know, Cik Farid, you have to sit with me. We have to go through your financial statements, go through your financial goals and planning and your risk appetite. We have seen a resurgence or a surgence or resurgence of robo advisors,
Mm,
um, which does take some of the demographics away from your typical unit trust consultant person to person interaction. Um, there is definitely room for growth there, but probably as far as Malaysian financial literacy is concerned, and there is still a need for um, unit trust consultants to facilitate and to assist unit holders to plan and select the right instruments for them to achieve their financial goals. And I think that is one of the proposals or ideas or hacks from the group today, that from a person who actually runs a physical business, that maybe would help to better enhance the customer experience, because I think there's always a need for human interactions. I think the pandemic for the past 3 years does mean that you can't do away everything with Zoom, or what, or this one is called AirMeet. Um, Nobody can kick me out of a conversation with Farid Q unless somebody
mm,
drags me physically away, like what happened in the session today. But things do happen. So yeah, I think definitely one of the areas that I'm looking for the various groups to maybe come up with some proposals or ideas is how technology can facilitate human interactions when it comes
mm,
to financial planning.
mm, mm. Well, thank you so much. I mean, you touched on so many things: financial literacy, yeah, the need for the unit trust consultants here today. Yeah, I mean, you can never replace that face-to-face interaction and experience. So that has a lot of impact towards customer experience. We're gonna be talking about all of this in a bit, but now let me just take one or two questions from the audience. Yeah. We'll start off with the first one, which is by Kelvin. So Kelvin asks, for ASNB, what solution is the current focus?
Hmm. So I mentioned a bit about using technology, using maybe data to facilitate the person-to-person interaction, because I think when it comes to financial planning advice, there is a lot of data that needs to be used for calculations. I think being able to know the customer before that person is in front of you. So, for example, referring you, if I know that you're coming at 11 o'clock today, and I know that for the past few months you've been an active investor with ASNB, you've preferred Maybank more than ASNB branch. So those kind of information would normally guide a unit trust consultant to discuss with you, provide you updates, maybe suggestions on how you need to rejig your portfolio. Although you being a fund manager, you may not want advice from my staff like that lah. All right. So that's one aspect, and then maybe the other aspect is also operationally, because like I said, I've got the frontliners, the front office. I've got the customer service, who are the middle office, and also got the back office operation. So you talk about digitalization, you talk about um, straight through processing and robotic process automation. So there's a lot of that. So that's also another area that's probably going to be key for ASMB moving forward. But maybe also for the various groups to consider is probably on the ancillary business of ASMB.
Mm.
So if yourself or the participants go through the deck that was sent earlier, ASMB also provides estate management or estate planning. Some of these processes are very lengthy. Some of these processes are very paper based. Sometimes the process cannot be fully digitalized because of laws that requires wet signature and live signature. So ideas of how to either circumnavigate that or maybe even propose ideas that ASMB can go to the regulator and say that, look, this is your current rather archaic way of manning things. This is a new approach. Can we consider? So yeah, even that could be a possible focus for the groups.
Understand? Like if you could, just a follow up question to that would be, if you could kind of rank it one, two, and three, in terms of which is the most important to SMB right now? You know, is it selling more variable versus fixed price, or is it, making it easier for customers to invest via financing, or is it growing the ancillary business? If you could rank it, how would you do that? Yeah,
You should know our bosses. There's no there's no
there's no,
ranking. They
they
want
want
all
it
of it.
all. They want
Yeah,
it all.
yeah. But if I guess if I could prioritize between the most important to the critical, I would
Mm,
say that I think digitalization is going to be happening, whether ASMB does anything to either react or to respond to it. Digitalization will happen. So
mm,
I talked about the physical channels are quite mature channels. You're not going to see large growth. You're not going to see huge double-digit CAGRs over the years. But digital is the future.
mm,
My ASNB and M2U and all that stuff is a digital channel that we are currently servicing. But how else can we penetrate the millennials and old and younger? Because I think there is a challenge for ASNB to, on one hand, um, service the slightly older generation like myself, who are probably at the peak of their careers in terms of earning capacity. Um, the normal logic is focus on them, because why do you focus on young people who do not have the
mm,
money to invest and move the needle? But I think in the long run, digitalization of serving this demographic, serving the underbanked or underserved, um, simplifying the process. I think a lot of us have gone through the process of trying to onboard ourselves for digital platforms. Still very clunky, still with challenges. So having it seamless, I think, would reduce the friction that will probably prevent people from choosing another platform than ASMB.
mm,
You know, when ASMB was set up 30, 40 years ago, there was no competition. Right now, whether is it the physical space or the digital space, there's always competition in the financial markets, and
mm,
ASMB needs to make sure that we stay either ahead or at par with the competitors. Um,
mm,
the management have always looked at the finance industry, the banking industry as the benchmark is in terms of customer service or digital channels. So we need to make sure that ASNB continues to stay at pace, and maybe with some of the ideas coming from this hackathon, we might, for once, overtake the banks. Maybe, who knows?
For once.
Yeah, for once.
Hopefully, hopefully. Like how you put it that way. You talk about digitalization. I think that's a great segue into the next question, which is by Dave Chiu, and he was really trying to understand, you know, why why do big banks like Maybank or CIMB, they don't really buy? I mean, according to Dave, he doesn't really see that, the large financial service companies really want to take that step into investing into digital transformation and startups. But for PNB, or ASND, they're a lot more willing to do so. So, in your opinion, on behalf of management, could
Wish.
you kind of share, share, uh, what was that thought process? That
Um,
difference, maybe.
I don't think there's so much of a hesitation. Excuse me. As you know, the new CEO of ASNB is a former chief technology officer of PNB,
Hmm.
so he is very technology open-minded. I think it's a combination of both. Like I said, ASNB, if you compare to banks, is playing catch up. So you've got that angle, and then there's also the angle that probably ASNB operates in a highly regulated environment. You know, we can't do things without the regulator. In this case, the Securities Commission saying, um, here's a blank piece of paper, do what you want.
Hmm.
They have continued to embrace technology. Probably Bank Negara is a bit ahead in terms of adopting new technologies such as blockchains and other platforms. But for now, I think it's more of trying to get our priorities right. ASMB just went through a very, very large system migration just last year. So it's
Hmm.
now the stability period is done. So now we want to start building on top of the new platform. But at the same time, also, I think SC has been very open. Even when there is something that is probably quite gray in terms of the regulation, um, you know, participants like ASNB can go to the SC and say that, look, we want to do this. The regulation is not quite there. Can we do something maybe on the sandbox point of view? So I think PNB and ASNB in general are open to technologies, both from your traditional technologies and even the your blockchains, the more newer, the more funky ones lah kot.
Hmm. All right, I think that already answers one of the questions that was asked, where the participant kind of wanted to know what PNB's view on blockchain or Web3 technologies are. So thank you so much for that. Um, you know, let's talk a little bit about the future. Yeah, Chazlan, that's kind of like the always the difficult part, I would say. Yeah, fast forward 5 years from today, you know, how would you envision ESMB to be like 5 years from today? What are the biggest changes that you will see, versus that of today?
um, I think in 5 years, ASNB would have to be a digitally savvy organization, not just from the perspective of customer engagement, customer experience, but the way ASNB does things, the way ASNB runs as an organization. Um, I think ASNB, with the leadership that is currently in place and with the people that is currently working with ASNB, you've got a nice mixture of the young, energetic, idea driven, always want to try something new, being balanced with those who are probably have been experienced in the industry for 20 or 30 years, just balancing it up. Because I think as I mentioned earlier, digital is always going to be the focus for any organizations moving forward. You cannot say that, oh, we don't have to worry about digital. 60% of ASNBs, sales are generated from physical channels. So why worry? I think we've all seen all the stories about BlackBerry and Nokia, and
Mm,
how it's difficult for them to shift away from a comfortable position.
mm,
Because I think once you are established, ASNB being one of the largest unit trust companies in Malaysia, there is a risk that we might fall down the Nokia and
mm,
all that stuff. So
mm,
in 5 years, a digitally competent organization, a digitally savvy organization, and probably even a digitally enhanced and enabled organization
mm,
from
mm.
a customer journey perspective, from a middle office, from the back office. I think that would be, if Cik Mus was here, it's probably the bare minimum lah kot.
Yeah. So for those of us who just joined, Encik Mus or Encik Muzaffar Osman, he is the new CEO of ASNB, and he will be driving this digitalization initiative. Yeah. You know, just to kind of touch upon what you mentioned earlier on, where you talk about Nokia, yeah, you talk about BlackBerry, yeah. Uh, in terms of benchmarking, in terms of benchmarking of ASMB versus its competitors, who would you kind of name as the latest or most innovative of these competitors?
Okay, so if you look at it from let's take that question into two parts lah. Because I
Mm,
think ASMB needs to continue to have that physical presence, and then you've also got the digital space that you need to compete. So as far as physical presence in terms of customer enrichment, customer journey, customer experience, I think um, one of the benchmark that was set by PNB's leadership team a couple of years back is when it comes to customer service, the benchmark is basically EPF.
okay.
Because if you ever go to the EPF HQ, the main branch before they shifted to Pasar Damansara,
Mm,
you don't have to wait long. So as far as customer journey is concerned, there was no forms involved, quick turnaround. So that is the benchmark as far as physical is concerned. Now
mm,
for the digital space, I think previously the benchmark was the bank's digital platform.
mm,
But I think now you look at it from the point of view of just customer journey and customer experience. Farid Q nanti you kena cover the performance side of the funds lah kan.
yeah.
Because the customer can also choose based on that. So the benchmark would have to be definitely the bank's digital platforms and maybe some of the international players.
Mm,
Encik Muzaffar during his initial time as CEO of ASNB, he lifted the bar as far as unit trust management company is concerned towards the international, the Western, modernized Western market, rather than comparing with just Stashaway or Wahid or all that platform. So ASNB has the inevitable task of having to continue to grow and succeed on both the traditional physical channels and also the uh, ever changing and ever rapidly improving digital landscape also.
yeah, completely understand. And to kind of further that question, yeah, you've already clearly mentioned that there's already management buy-in for this. Everybody in the organization also wants to do this,
Mm.
but it's obvious that there are few challenges ahead. Yeah. What would you say are those two or three biggest challenges? Is it technological? Is it personnel? What would you say are the biggest challenges in achieving this digitalization dream?
Okay, I will have to give the politically correct answer.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I think technology is a challenge. I wouldn't say it is the most critical, because I think adoption of technology is always going to be scary especially when the technology is very, very new.
Mm.
I think we look at our regulators and the way that they embrace new technology is very careful, very measured. Some people would say that, oh, our regulators are slower than our competitors in Singapore, for example, but there is a reason for that.
Mm.
And I think some of the challenges faced by the Money Authority of Singapore, I think earlier this year or late last year, with when the Bitcoin tanked, shows that there is a need for a measured approach when technology is being embraced. So
Mm.
that's one, probably. Second is going to be also adoption of human skills, because
Mm.
when technology comes, there's always a pushback from certain groups because they feel that they're going to be out of a job and all that stuff. But I think technology is always going to be the greatest enabler. So upskilling the human resources is going to be key, because technology requires a human to make it um, implementable and usable from a customer perspective. So I think probably those two, upskilling of existing resources to embrace new technologies and ways of doing things, but also um, not being too disappointed when maybe the regulators are taking a more cautious approach when it comes to embracing technology.
So on that note, I mean, you talk about technology, but you also are able to see the entire process chain, front end, back end,
Mm.
right? So where is this technological challenge, do you see more, I would say, more pertinent? Is it in the front end, the selling, or is it in the back end where it's about the processing of those? Where would you kind of see it?
Um, I would think that both are equally important, because, like I said, if you're talking about a frontliner who's the customer facing, they need technology not just to help them facilitate their interactions with the unit holder, but also for them to also carry on their daily tasks. So technology is important there. On the flip side, the back office also requires digitalization, process automation, and all that stuff, because not many unit trust management companies are the size of ASNB.
Mm.
You know, when you think about the 14, 13 million account holders that we have, in the case of our flagship fund, which is Amanah Saham Bumi Putra, with almost 10 million account holders, just the thought of calculating dividends for 10 million people, sending sending statements,
Mm.
annual statements to the units to 10 million people. I think that's a challenge. So I think equally both requires, you cannot do one without the other.
Mm.
You can have a great customer journey upfront, customer walks out of the branch happy, but you know they get their statements 3 months after the announcement or 6 months after the announcement, because the back office operations is bogged down because of manual work or just sheer volume that people cannot handle without technology. So I think it has to be a balance of both, lah, Farid.
Understood. Understood. Yes, yes, you can't have one without the other, in a way, right? Maybe I can just answer one of these questions on behalf, yeah, because the question is kind of related to the fund manager. So, is ASNB fund managers investing in international market?
Ah,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. In fact, we have not one but two products, right? Yeah, we have the Inbank Global, and we also have the Equity Global. So yes, we definitely do invest in the international market. Yeah. On that, yeah, I just wanted to ask a little bit more because this one is a question by Gim Hoi Song. I think it's quite a pertinent question also, which is currently how does ASMB get customer data for its current KYC process?
um, I think the data from the eKYC is important for ASNB. So
Mm.
basically, when you go through the process, the information is actually fed back through the core systems for processing and all that stuff. So um, it is important. I mean, data is not just important for marketing and all that stuff, but it's also important because, like I said, ASNB is operating in a highly regulated environment. So you've got money laundering requirements from Bank Negara. You've got fiduciary requirements from the Securities Commission. So the data is required by multiple parties, and also within ASNB itself is required by various different departments. So
mm,
the branch team would need the data to make sure that they can do their checks. You've got the back office teams that are basically going to analyze the data and see how best it fits into the demographic. The marketing team is going to need it. The sales team is going to need it. So the challenge is to make sure that the information sharing between both, not just for external stakeholders, but within internal stakeholders itself,
mm,
how to make it seamless, how to enrich the data, because you know somebody who went through EKYC all the way till the end managed to subscribe, but during redemption online they had an issue. The
mm,
call center folks would need the information and all that stuff.
mm,
So I think those are probably how ASMB envisions moving forward, how data is going to be used.
mm,
Like I mentioned, the EKYC process for ASNB customers just started, I think, third quarter last year. So we are still improving the system, and we are also looking at the data that is available and see how best we can enrich the data. Because I think every organization has data right now in today's world, but it's how we enrich the data is going to be the challenge, not just for ASMB, but even for larger organizations in the financial industry.
great, great. Speaking about challenges, also, you know, there are challenges in terms of attracting what do you call this, attracting customers. So I'm just wondering from your vantage point, managing customers as well as channels, which demographic have you had the most trouble in attracting? Would you say?
Um, the ones who are probably in their late teens and early 20s, I
Late
would
teens.
say. I think the challenge is, at least I'm not sure, Farid Q dia muda lagi kan. I grew up with a generation where your parents will make sure that you have at least two or three non-banking accounts. You definitely
Mm,
have to have ASB. Your
mm,
parents will open up for you. You will definitely have one tabung haji. And if you are in my generation, normally you have the tabung yang bentuk tabung haji punya bangunan kat
yeah,
Jalan
yeah, yeah,
Perazak tu.
yeah, yeah.
And then normally you have one BSN account. I'm not
Oh,
sure why, but most people my generation will have at least one BSN account. But I think the challenge these days is because ASNB is operating in a very, very competitive landscape. So not everyone has an ASB account. It's no longer the default. Okay, anak, you have a child.
mm,
You get your birth certificate and you go straight to the branch to open an ASB account.
mm,
It's been a bit falling. It's not to the point where everybody is panicking, but you don't want to only do something when it's already too late.
mm,
You know, we talked about data in the previous question. We can see the data, we know the competitors, we know the industry. The regulators have been very good in terms of sharing information,
mm,
the demographics, the data. Even fellow GLICs like Khazana and EPF also been very kind to share their data. So we can see the challenge that probably EPF doesn't have because they are statutory body, and you have to save with them whether you like it or not.
mm,
But when it comes to ASNB, who are competing in an open market that is very competitive and very, very agile, if I can say so,
mm,
we need to make sure that we don't lose ground to the competitors
mm,
in the digital space.
mm,
Because, like I said, I grew up in a generation where everyone has an ASB account, everyone has a Tabung Haji account. These days, that is no longer guaranteed. So we
mm,
have to do your digital marketing, you have to do your traditional marketing. So maybe the groups have ideas on how we can capture this segment of the society who are also not your traditional Malaysian. They don't
Mm,
work in the office 9 to 5, blah blah blah. They are the gig economy for that
mm,
reason. So they don't fit into a mold where you can say that definitely kalau you are a corporate entity, we will come and approach your HR. You can do your monthly salary deduction and blah 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 blah.
mm,
Most of these people don't get attached to a particular company with a proper HR setup. So
mm.
yeah, ideas on that
Okay.
segment would be important.
I see. Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah. I mean, early on, you can do something as simple as regular saving investment plan, and then you
Yep.
just deduct a certain percentage of your salary. But if you're a gig economy worker, that's a little bit more difficult to do. Yeah. We have time for three or four more questions from the audience, and from the participants. While we wait for more questions to kind of come into in drips and drabs, maybe I can ask a question on what you mentioned earlier, where you talked about the options that you had. Yeah, when you were young, you said you had ESB, BSN, you had the Tabung Haji actual thing, which by the way I still have.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, my question would be like, you know, there has been a lot of new asset classes coming in, yeah, cryptocurrency, NFT, and this kind of other digital products. Do you see actual interest in those today? And does ASNB want to introduce or at least move towards introducing those kind of assets down the line?
Oh, second question too, you have to answer.
Oh, really?
But
That's
okay,
fine.
never mind. Yeah, I think from a unit holder's perspective, lah,
Yeah.
as as the search for the returns become more and more challenging.
Mm,
Yeah, I've had customers who've come in and say that, what is PNB and ASNB going to do if, for example, the local equities continue to struggle? Are you going to open up to this, all those things? So, and surprisingly, it does not just come from the younger generation,
mm,
who can come up to you and say that, I can invest in Bitcoin via Luno. Why can I probably invest in ASNB, when it launches its, the more complex or high risk portfolio made up by Bitcoins or other technologies? It just doesn't come from that segment alone. You've also got your high net worth, which my branches also serve, because high net worths are normally also managed by a private banker from the bank side. They
mm,
have relationship managers and wealth managers, so they also ask that question. So I think from an ASMB's point of view, I think we have a customer base that is very wide.
mm,
Our mantra or policy is, we are the financial institution from cradle to the grave. So
mm,
we cater from newborns all the way till your end of life, your distribution part of life, which is why the ancillary business in terms of estate management comes in. So I think, yeah, if you're asking whether customers have been asking, of course they have been asking, but
mm,
um, it is both a requirement that I'm sure PNB is also looking at it as far as asset allocation is concerned, but also, like I said, we have to also be in line with the regulators who are probably taking a bit more of a cautious approach moving forward.
mm. Understood, understood. So we have 10 more minutes and we're having quite a few, I would say, really interesting questions coming in. So this is going to be like a rather speed round. Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
boleh.
you all right? So let's go with the first one. I think this is pretty simple. What is the demography of ASB's current customer base? If you can kind of, give a rough breakdown of that.
Okay. I can't recall the details lah. Basically, I think, as per your typical financial planning life cycle, you've got young, you've got your early professionals, you've got your maximum in terms of wage earning capability, you've got distribution. So ASNB and PNB being an entity almost 40 years old now, if not more. So it is best to assume that the majority of our unit holders are currently in their financial distribution point of view,
Mm,
phase of financial planning. So
mm.
that means they are probably in their early 50s towards that demographic. Your Gen X, eh? Is it Gen X? No, no, no. It's the generation before that. The your baby boomers lah.
Baby boomers. Yeah.
Yeah, so your baby boomers are probably the largest demographic. In terms of UIC, they probably hold the biggest chunk of all of the 280 billion I mentioned earlier, which is not surprisingly because they are at the stage of their career where they have peaked in
Big.
terms of wage earning capabilities. And right now, their focus is basically preservation and also distribution.
Mm.
So, yeah, that would be the largest demographic that we have.
Okay, that's great. The second one, I think we can kind of bundle these two questions together because I think they're kind of asking the same thing, which is how open is ASMB in allowing integration with developers into their own digital platforms? So, opening up to the MySMB or the portal or the app to other developers and other
Um,
solutions.
Yeah, I think ASNB have always been a collaborative entity in nature. We've worked with many parties. Um, your traditional big IT houses such as Oracle, previously IBM, and we've also worked with I wouldn't say startups, but probably less glamorous organizations, which have gone on and grown to be absorbed into a larger organization. So I think ASMB has always been open to that. Um, I don't think we have an issue. For example, if any of the groups can come up with the idea of solution where we can enhance the salary deduction
Mm,
um, initiative or program to go beyond, like I said, like you said earlier, Farid, go
mm,
beyond your corporate with structured HR setups and all that stuff and cover the gig economy. So maybe
mm.
that's something that we are more than happy to work with, not the glamorous IT companies. If the idea is good enough, I mean, there's no harm in that.
Yeah, okay. So very open not just to the working with other, but also, to answer the earlier question, yeah, also open to new technologies, right? In
Yeah.
blockchain, Web3. So essentially, I think the key takeaway here is that ASME is extremely open to new ideas, to new features, and a new way to approach our customers. I think that's a great point. Uh, Speaking about that, yeah, I think we have about last 5 minutes, so I think this will be a great way to kind of wrap up today's session, which is what is at the top of your mind when you're thinking about what ASND wants to achieve from this hackathon at the end of the day. What would you say that would be, Chancellor?
How about a silver bullet that will put ASMB in front of everything, in front of your statuaries and your robos and your black rocks and everything? I think that would be nice. But
Mm,
I think um, solutions that not only solve challenges that ASMB is facing,
mm,
but also probably solutions to a problem that has yet to materialize.
mm,
Because I think as an organization, um, if you look yourself in the mirror, you can't see your own ears. For example, you need somebody to tell you that, look, your ears hangit sikit lah.
mm,
So I think from the entire event, ASNB is looking forward to fresh ideas.
mm,
ASNB is looking forward to ideas that not only improve, for example, revenue generation for better sales, but um, improve productivity on the operations team.
mm,
Enhance the customer experience for unit holders.
mm,
So it doesn't have to be all about just finding a way to make money.
mm,
Although that would be quite the motivation. But I think enriching customer experience, improving business operations, and also again that digital space of the unbanked or underbanked or underserved. I think that is an area that ASNB identifies as a potential growth area, and
Mm,
any ideas to penetrate and establish. So ASNB has already established itself as the largest unit trust company as far as a physical presence is concerned.
mm, mm.
So knowing how Cik Muzaffar thinks, he wants that same replicated in the digital platform also. So yeah, I think that would be. I'm looking forward to ideas to maybe cover those three main areas.
Understood. All right. So with that, I think we can call an end to today's session. Yeah. So kind of to just wrap everything up in kind of like a nice package. So today's topic, just to revisit that was about redefining the future of asset management. And as you really put it nicely, the future of asset management is all about data. It's all about digitalization, not just in the front end in the selling, but also in the back end. We talk about operations and making use of that data and communicating it between ASMB your side and then my side also fund managers, right? That's important. Then number two, we talked about the key target market. We're targeting a little bit more towards the teens and early 20s, yeah, late teens and early 20s. So that is the focus in terms of our target market. And finally, we also talked about how open the management is in terms of new ideas, new products, and that will be so much welcome from the participants of our hackathon for 2022. Yeah. So with that, thank you so much to Encik Azlan. We had a
No
very
problem.
wonderful conversation, and pass it back to Wei En.
Yes, thank you so much, Encik Azlan, as well as Encik Farid, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. And of course, for the insightful session today on how ASNB, as the largest unit trust management company in Malaysia, is redefining the future of asset management. And definitely, we hope that all participants have also benefited and gained knowledge from today's session. To all hackathon participants, we will see you later again for our second webinar in the afternoon on enhancing problem solving skills and innovative abilities by Arvin Rahman, who is the head of product design at JDV, and that will be at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Stay tuned and see all of you later at 2 p.m. Thank you once again, Encik Azlan and Encik Farid.
All right. Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.